Hey yo, what it do, what it do? It's your boy Q, and we're back for some more Week 5 action of PIEA Overwatch. Got the homie Cracked on the mic with me to run these last couple of games on the day. We had one D1 to start things off, sticking on board with some more D1 action. You see those names at the bottom of the screen. Penn Manor versus Mountain View. Should be a goodie, starting off on Ilios once more. Cracked, how you feeling, homie?
Yeah, doing good, actually. Glad to be inside the safety of four walls, ladies and gentlemen. The Cracked Wisdom's comment for the day. If you've got your kids out on the streets, don't let them play too near the cars, all right? Safety first, ladies and gentlemen. And we're all going to be looking forward to strapping in those all-important seatbelts for the action you're going to get to witness here today. It might not be Rocket League we've got on screen today, Overwatch 2 for your entertainment, but still, nonetheless, you're going to need to lock in because it is going to be explosive, and I am looking forward to seeing which of these two teams comes out on top.
Should be a lot of fun. It's week number 5 action. So for teams who maybe aren't necessarily in the spot that they would like to be in the standings, there's, well, sometime, but a very small accent on the sometime. Yeah, it's this week and next week, and then we're heading into conference championship or conference playoffs. Of course, once you get into playoffs, I mean, really, it's all about seeding. The real fun starts in the playoffs there. So as far as our two teams here, I know Man and I were talking a little bit in the green room. Penn Manor, one of those teams when it comes to Overwatch, quite often seen as a top contender. I do believe they had fallen to, I want to say it's Spring Grove, who we do have up next in the Elite Division. So that's the reason why they're not in the Elite Division, but they are one of those teams that we've seen for quite some time, especially when it comes to Overwatch in particular. They really have a pretty strong program. I know that they competed in the state championship in the spring last year. I can't remember how many of their players they were bringing back. I think they lost at least a couple. But they've been looking pretty good thus far. Whereas Mountain View, a team that's still kind of trying to find their way, find their footing. But we talked about it, Crack. There's still time if you can at least turn the tide going into week 5.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of these teams have shown us throughout the entirety of the Overwatch season is that different teams excel at different points within the best of series. This control map, something that teams come out of the gate swinging for, then they find themselves in that higher pressure environment, the higher tempo of Flashpoint. And it finds the tables being flipped where the DPS gets turned on its head into more of a burst versus burst composition scenario, and that's where some of these teams tend to turn it into their own favor. So very interested to see which team plays best with which style of map and which one of them is going to take the lead off the rip. We would expect, like you mentioned, Penn Manor to look pretty hot out the gates here, but if you're going to start somewhere with surprises, well, why not right off the gate?
You know, Cracked, I can't remember how much Overwatch you and I have gotten to work together thus far, but I always like to tell people when it comes to looking at the composition, I'm a tank guy. That's where always I like to start first. Not surprised to be seeing the Roadhog coming out here, especially because we are on the point that does have that big old hole left in the center. Kind of surprised to see the Hazard coming out here for Penn Manor. I feel like we haven't been seeing too many teams really breaking out the newest frontline hero.
Just going to give it a moment to let the two teams settle in. We're also going to give ourselves, for the folks at home, to get settled into their chairs, because before this kicks off, we're going to have a moment of patience. And when I say a moment of patience, folks, I mean only a moment, because as soon as these two teams come face to face inside of these close confines inside of here in Ilios, we are going to see the action popping off immediately. Traps going down. Heimdall's Pigpen is no longer for this earth, but no members so far finding themselves in the 6-foot coffin dirt.
Not quite yet. We've definitely seen a couple of members over that Mountain View squad getting close. Vegito going to fall down. The Echo getting close as well. That should make it relatively easy to be able to finish off the rest of this team fight. Now it's just the Roadhog with everybody looking down their sights. Does have that little extra juice to get him to the door, but not quite going to be able to make it.
Yeah, Shunam's going to play a little game of long-range bowling there at the end as they're trying to run the way back to the spawn to recuperate and regroup as a squad, but manages to find the shurikens, the throwing star at the distance to find the final blow. Now, Mountain View need to try and reassess and reapproach for round 2. Try and retake control here. Penn Manor have themselves a comfortable 15% before they're going to be pressured again. They're going to be sitting probably about 20 to 25 before they find themselves actually challenged in this control point.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. We do see that Mountain View's changed the things up a little bit on their front line. That's my dad, baby. It's Sigma coming out. I always feel like Sigma can be I feel like Sigma's in a decent place after some of the changes here recently as well. But you know what? What I think of Sigma doesn't matter. Sigma very quickly gets put back down onto the ground. Penn Manor in these early team fights looking dominant, Crack.
Yeah, Sugar Ghetto there in the top. That's the second character we've seen them in the same amount of team fights between the Mountain View side. 2 for 2, Penn Manor showing us what they've got here on just one composition, but on what they have the ability to swap out for two when it comes to maintaining that control there. As we talk about some of these compositions, Q, and you talk about those tanks, well, it's the first thing to look at, because in a front-to-back team fight, you'd normally like to think that the meat shield is the one that's protecting you, but when Sugar Ageto is getting into the back line like this, then Raven Folly is going to find themselves feeling a little folly with that kind of positioning. Now, Short Sword as the rest of the team is surrounding Sugar Ageto right now. They're not finding any success. All I'm seeing is blue health bars going down, and S-Man finding a kill onto MBSD Esports. It's all kicking off with Heimdall in a response, though. Sugar Ageto goes down. The Genji trying to make the action flip like an Uno table.
This is tough here. They're literally fighting as soon as they leave their respawn doors here, Cracked. I mean, they're stuck so far back. They haven't been even... Wait, Shunim, waiting? Oh yeah, do it to him like that. There's one on the flank. Gonna be able to find a second as well. Able to play hide and seek, I guess you can say. Finding the first two, and should be able to help clean up the rest of this team fight as we see the end of round one.
I mean, they're not called a lethal assassin for nothing. Whether it be Shunim or the character that they're playing, the positioning there was picture perfect, and that's the kind of play you got to look at. These levels of Overwatch, guys and girls at home. That little difference in approach, the mentality, the perspective to just say, I can be here, and they might not think I'm going to be here, and then it catches them with the pants down and they lose half the health for it, and it's a pretty good advantage, actually. So, small individual plays from our Penn Manor side in the first control point, leading them to a 1-0 advantage inside of map 1.
And we had talked about in the first iteration of week number 5 in our first matchup, Cracked, how this week's map pool kind of creates a interesting dynamic for the team that loses map number 1, because we go straight from control to flashpoint, which is two very similar game modes, right? I feel like in the past we've seen, or in other weeks even, you'll see us go from, like, say, a control into like a push, and then maybe flashpoint for map number 3, right? But two where it's like, I guess you could say, the not quite so Overwatch-esque map. I always feel Overwatch, I think push, I think neutral, you know, I think game modes like that. So to have these two modes back to back where it's more simply just about, I guess, the team fight versus the objective, so to speak, because if you win the team fight, your objective is cleared up for you. Mountain View's got to find something to build upon, even if they lose this second point, to take into map number 2. Otherwise, they're in trouble.
And we talked about the difference between the two styles of gameplay, control and flashpoint, both being ground control, area denial as a source. Oh, what a ridiculous shot from Shunim to find the first there. The Widow coming in. It's a Widow maker, all right. Mid Wagon might be finding themselves mid-coffin as they are currently on the ground. Oh my word, a second as Shunim finds Raven. Birds being shot out of the sky. 3 as Sugar Ageto finds a triple back up. The Penn Manor pull themselves 3 cutesy little babies off the kick. And it's going to find them in full control of point number 2.
Not a good time to lose one's head before the first point even opens up, but now it's going to be from distance. Shunim just going to have free pickings while the rest of the squad pushes forward here from Penn Trafford. And this is for Penn Manor, sorry. Oh man, the Penn Manor fans are going to be all after me again. But we do see, I mean, they're doing such a good job of pushing up, not only into the point, but past that, to where by the time Mountain View gets to touch the point, their health bar is like 50% down.
Yeah, I'm going to say Mitwagon might have found themselves renamed to Meltwagon with how quickly that health bar got removed there as the Diva pushed into a very dangerous position in here. The Mauga, Sugar Ageto is having an absolute world of a time. Just fighting 1 versus 1 with all the problems on the edge of the map. Vegito pays the price from that aggression there. Now, Shunim able to move up a little bit further forward, getting a bit aggressive, going to pop some shots down into the Diva, switch to this hyper-aggressive mode and finds himself good tags. S-Man, Sugar Ageto find 1 apiece each for the Penn Manor side, and the aggression just keeps on coming. It's ground being taken as heads roll. S-Man and Sugar Ageto are seeming to find ourselves in a deja vu scenario. It's the same 2 over and over again, but 4 quick, clean kills. Penn Manor have complete control.
And now Shunim's just vibing on this top ground, this high ground, way up in the sky here, pushed forward, which will have them just a little more hesitant as they do leave their spawn doors. I'm pretty sure they spotted Shunim backing up to the rest of their team for now, but they still have to watch those sightlines. Shunim has been doing such a good job of being able to tap some heads and stack some bread, and right now is got to worry about this Diva pushing forward, but the movement is so smooth.
Actually, the positioning, honestly, on Shunim right now has been phenomenal, both in the first and the second game, and you made an absolutely wise point to attest to it there. You got to take care with what shots you take. We'll talk about that in a second as IJV goes down. It looks like we're going to have Vegito putting everything they've got inside of that action. The alcove is not going to claim them anything, though. It's going to be the end of the game. Penn Manor, sweet map 1.
Yeah, that looked impressive here to be able to just completely dominate both points. That second point there, like they touched a couple of times, but it wasn't without being put down very, very quickly. The hazard going to be the play of the game there from that first point. And I don't know about you, but I always love seeing Frontline getting some shine for that play of the game.
I mean, it was the majority of the talk of the game was Penn Manor pushing forward. I mean, the frontliners were giving themselves almost a quarter-mile sprint as to which one of the two of them could get themselves deeper into enemy lines first for the rest of the team to follow up. I mean, Mountain View, they might have been safer sat in a Mountain View because you definitely don't want to come in the danger zone of Penn Manor right now because it is an absolute slaughter fest. All credit where credit is due to the Penn Manor side, but I mean, if you're Mountain View, you've got to give yourself a shake of the head in the halftime whistle for this one.
Gotta find a way to have a really good, bad short-term memory if you're Mountain View. Definitely want to take a couple of points to move forward into this flashpoint with, because we did mention it is a similar sort of game mode as opposed to that control there for Ilios. We'll have to wait and see if we do indeed go back to New Junk City like we did in our first iteration of our first series of the day, or maybe we switch things up and go over to Suravasa. But as far as, I think the important thing is realizing over the course of that first map there, we did see so much control from Penn Manor, right, Crack? Like, it's not like there was back and forth on the point, so maybe if Mountain View is just able to hold a little longer with the speed up of how those points go in Flashpoint, they'll be all right. They've got to find a way to hit a complete 180 here.
You hit the nail on the head. At this moment in time, we're looking for those jigsaw puzzle pieces, all right? We're looking for the golden ones that were picture perfect formed when they came out of the machine, and then we're noticing there's a couple with rough around the edges that we need to reprint, repress. This time, it's almost like the machine forgot to stamp the pieces into bits with just one big slab. It's a great image. The idea is there. We can see what it is that Mountain View are going for. But Penn Manor came across, and the slab might as well be made of ice instead of cardboard because they brought the hammer and it just shattered into a million pieces instead of jigsaw puzzle perfection. So, I mean, you really got to look at this from Mountain View. I'm looking at a trip rope, right, your boy Q. I don't know if you're a D&D fan, but those natural ones, all right, that the mythic legendary creature rolls to trip over a simple wire set as a trap to have them fall down the stairs to the death. That's what it feels like from the Mountain View perspective right now.
Definitely something that they've got to look out for sure. And it does look like we're going to switch things up this time around. We're not going off the New Junk City. We are indeed going off to Suravasa for our flash point. And I think the big thing here is going to be for the side of Mountain View. I think we'll have a good indicator of if they're going to be able to hit that corner nice and hard to be able to put themselves back into this series literally by the end of the first point. Because if you aren't able to get yourself, if we're in a similar situation where they're barely getting touches, let alone percentages, it's just going to end up being a victory lap here for Penn Manor in map 2.
And believe it if you will, Q, but I'm going to indulge the man of the front line. I actually am also quite a fan of some of these beef cakes, shall we say, the delicatessens of that damage absorption process, all right? Something like the Mauga or even the Havoc. Me personally, I'm a Doomfist extraordinaire. I love myself a good bit of frontline fromage, all right? Whether it be a smooth strawberry or a respectable raspberry, whatever the flavor of yogurt, and especially the flavor of your tank, it's always appeased me. Now, I'm curious to know, the man with the wealth of knowledge when it comes to frontline, what's your favorite tank, and what is it right now?
So, when it comes to my favorite to play, I'm a huge Win-Ton fan. I love the monkey. I'm a big fan of aggressive frontline. Also, of course, I can't talk front lines without mentioning my dad. Next time you see the profile for Sigma, the side profile on the face, you can't tell me you don't see the family resemblance. But I also feel like when you look at the highest of levels, we've seen where Mauga's been a very big staple for right now. We've seen Penn Manor doing quite well with that. Those would probably be my favorite 3 right now.
I'm with it 100% of the way. I'm honestly just a little bit sad the Doomfist is not currently in the meta. Personally, one of my favorites, I guess, when it comes to the gameplay. That just all-in mentality is what I'm quite a fan of. But that being said, Mauga sees a lot of strength recently, and it's an interesting one that the D.Va is the one that's being chosen to sort of match up against it right now. Normally for a Mauga, you see a Mauga versus Mauga mirror matchup, or maybe even that Sigma to try and deal with it a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like we had seen Sigma earlier in our earlier matchup when it was a Mauga that was putting in quite a bit of work. I don't think we've seen that quite in the hero pool thus far from Mountain View. And Mountain View already going to suffer 2 picks. Heimdall is trying to find a way back to safety with that D.Va. Does have the extra movement, of course, at their disposal, but of course, falling away from the point just simply allows for Penn Trafford to get that control. Penn Manor, I keep doing it.
I didn't want to say anything, I didn't want to correct you, but I was also keeping an eye on some of these perk choices that might be coming in. So trickling through my bank knowledge of the 328 odd perks that have been brought into this game and introduced recently, and there's a couple in here that we might be paying close attention to in the next couple of minutes time. One in particular is going to be the major perk.
As I say, I think perks are currently banned until playoffs. They're giving the players some time to adjust there.
That's smart, you know. That's wise.
I do like that. I also like that it allows for at least the regular season to all be played under like the same sort of construct, right? Like we started this season without the perks.
Yeah.
We'll wait until the end. But I do agree. I feel like once those perks come into play, it adds so much depth to Overwatch. I can't wait to see it come to playoff.
It's the synergies that some of them bring to the team fight overall at the end of the gameplay. I don't want to talk about it too much now. If it's not so relevant with the gameplay we're going to watch, we'll save that for the delicious entertainment when we get to that point in time. Meanwhile, on the capture point, Sugar Ghetto is going to have to take out Heimdall, but Heimdall is going to find a response from it. It's only the suit going down as the ult comes through from Shunem. 2 on the back of that. IJB, Shunem finds himself the triple. It is Heimdall paying the price eventually the end of it. A big jipper. Well, it might be a little late, but it's definitely not too little as the full team kill comes through, and that is Penn Manor control again.
And it's one of those where you were able to get the chunky boy out. We saw Sugarito go down, but it was everybody else who stepped up to the plate, finish up that first team fight. That first point onto the board is going to be for Penn Manor, like you had mentioned. I feel like the big thing, though, is we saw small improvements for Mountain View. It tells me that they might stand a chance here, but now we have to pivot and turn our focus to point 2.
Currently on board here with one of the ultimates, the only ultimate actually, in the hands of the Echo for Mountain View. Going to be where we're looking to see some form of a turnaround. Sugar Ghetto just doing the best that they can to melt down that Echo with the ultimate in the high spot. Shunem finds a second, third comes through as Big Jipper is slowing us exactly what Penn Manor had to play. IJB and Big Jipper double up each 2 apiece. That's a full team removal as well, and honestly, the love is being shared right now, Q. Everybody's getting in on the action, and everyone's being given a final blow or a kill of their own.
Yeah, I mean, right now it just seems like on the side of Penn Manor, as much as maybe you could look to Shurito or maybe even a Shunem as like leaders, everyone definitely getting theirs, as you would say. So I feel like we're seeing what's really makes this Penn Manor squad so difficult to match up against when it does come to Overwatch, as we see another team fight very quickly winding down. However, Big Jiffer might be trying to turn it around here.
10-player kill streak is nothing to bow down to either, actually. It's just a phenomenal amount of skill across the Penn Manor side where play after play is coming through, and I don't want to harp on a broken record, Q, but this frontline work that is going in from Sugar Ghetto is doing the majority of that it needs to open up the rest of the backline for Penn Manor. You look no further than this tank versus tank battle at frontline. Heimdall does find one with the ultimate. Sugar Ghetto gets one of their own. IJB finds the Echo, though. Penn Manor's target acquisition and their control in these fights just is all round way better placed.
Yeah, they're doing such a great job as far as their target prioritization and really focusing their fire. Instead of 5 individuals like in 1v1s, or I guess you say 3 if you don't include your supports, they are truly trying to identify what target they want to put down together. Their team fights have been darn near flawless, and they're now just 1 point away from being able to complete the sweep as well here, Cracked.
And look at that, so Sugar Ghetto gets removed down to 25% health by Vegito, and the second they're in that danger zone, they kite away into cover. None of the team are there to get the finishing blow, and now the Mauga is just absorbing all of the Mountain View team pressure. Look at how many members are chasing this Mauga right now, and they're going to run into the rest of the Penn Manor squad when they go to the choke point, and Penn Manor team are ready for it, though. Pushing in, all online. Mountain View have decided this is their time to chase and challenge. Inside, the Mauga's going to have to jump into the middle. Doesn't get time to cage fight. Heimball and MVSD Esports there on the Echo, both pick one up apiece. It looks like Mountain View might have finally found a response here, Q.
Yeah, the benefit of that comeback mechanic, they had respawns closer to that last point, and right now they have to maintain that control, however, because it looks like this fight could very well be turning on their head. The mech is gone. They should be able to take down the tank, and yes, indeed they do. Might have seen Mountain View get up to 24%, but that's as high as they'll climb.
I may have reclined a little bit further back in my chair from the flinch than I had intended to. That looked really scary for a second. Mountain View had full control of the point. It looked like they'd really done a good job of getting onto that controlled section. However, Penn Manor were having none of it, and this positioning again on a big jiff is going to catch out one of the backline of the Mountain View side before they even get in on the action. I mean, you won't want to talk about chip damage. That's not poke. That's half the health bar. That is an obnoxious amount of health to take off before somebody gets involved in the action.
All of a sudden, they're having to retreat back, break line of sight, hope one of their supports can help them out, and delays that inevitable push here onto the point. They don't have much time to be able to find pressure towards this point. It's already 65% for Penn Manor. This will indeed be the last team fight that Mountain View gets, the last crack at it. And, well, right now they are still struggling to find that first pick. The Blade's going to come out here, and that should allow for Big Jiff to clean things up in this team fight.
It's 2 with the Blade, but I'm just looking for the response from Mountain View, and it just feels like it's just not there. They don't have a chance. In comes 4. Sig drops 3 and Shunan with a finisher, and my word. Oh, baby, a triple's an understatement. I mean, Penn Manor didn't even need the triple. They take themselves a confident 2-0.
Mago was just waiting for everyone to come in there. Sugarito's like, all right, well, now's the time to hit my cage fight. I do suppose we'll clean things up after the Blade picks up the first couple. And, you know, I had mentioned, we had talked about the Genji, we had talked about the front line for Sugarito, but Shunan also a big contributor when it came to the success of this Penn Manor squad. And you're seeing it with this play of the game right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as a Penn Manor fan in the crowds, you're going to be stood there waving your flag strong and proud, cheering for the success and the strength of your team as they take home a successful 2-0 into the Mountain View side. Mountain View have got some good points to look towards, but I definitely think there's going to be a lot of conversations about improvements after today's game there. No disrespect meant to the Mountain View side, but at the end of the day, a crushing victory leaves you with a notepad full of suggestions for improvement. So always stuff to work on and something to look forwards in the next couple of weeks.
Remember, it's not truly a loss unless you can't find a way to turn that L into a learning lesson. So that's going to be what's most important for the Mountain View squad moving forward. Our first 2 matches done and dusted. I don't think Penn Manor was quite able to keep up with the pace that Westmont Hilltop was able to complete their sweep in map number 1. But our first 2 matchups are done. That was our 2 Division 1 matchups. We're off to our Elite Division for our final matchup of the day. We got Spring Grove versus Central Bucks South. Promises to be a banger. We'll be starting off on Ilios. That should be getting kicked off here in about 20 minutes or so. So grab yourself a quick snack, maybe grab yourself a drink, and on the other side, we'll have some Elite Division Overwatch action.